And I'm going to be finishing up the show solo as John had to leave a bit early. But of course, we are keeping the conversation going this morning, and we have another very important one. It's nomination day. We're going to be talking a lot about the upcoming elections, and we get to check in once again on a new movement in Belize. It's called Youth Votes Matter. And so we're joined by two of the representatives of this campaign. We have Paul Lopez and we have Tarun Butcher. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marlene.
Well, thank you both for joining us this morning. And let's start off with a bit of a refresher as to the campaign itself and how it all came together.
Well, Tarun, you'll have me take that one?
Go right ahead, Paul.
All right. Well, as you may know, since you had, good morning to our viewers. Good morning, Marlene. As you may know, since you guys had Beresford Cod on the show, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and he is really one of the pioneers behind this campaign, alongside Miss Maria, who is a law student at UWI in Trinidad. And it's really a non-partisan movement focused on having balanced conversations on the issues affecting youths nationally. And what we really want to do is increase youth participation in these types of discussions, increase youth participation in these issues. And man, I tell you, we have been going on for about 3 weeks now, and the discussions, they have been healthy. The discussions, they have been balanced. I don't think that we were prepared for what we have been experiencing in terms of the output of these shows, in terms of the views of our youths, and I must say that we have a lot of work to do. We have a long way to go in terms of the needs that our youths have addressed, the needs that our youths are addressing, because our youths on the ground, they know the direction that youth participation needs to head in, and so definitely youth voice matters.
Well, definitely, I have to just add on to what Paul is saying, because as we look regionally, our youth population it's growing, and the youth voter population is growing as well. And what we really need to do is create a climate where youth voices are heard, and the way to do that is for us to be able to vote not only in the participate in the electoral process, but go even further. So with the Youth Voice Matters, it doesn't just end after the election, but it's something that we plan to keep going, where youth can really get out there and express their concerns about what is going on. And when we talk about youth issues, it's not just arts, it's not just sports. Youth issues are all of the issues that we face, everything from political reform to economic development, and these are youth issues as well.
Right. And this just to piggyback a bit more on what Tarun is saying, one of the questions that people ask is, why now? Why have these types of discussions at this time? Well, I do believe, and the movement, the campaign believes that it's timely. When you look at the environment that we are in, yes, we're in a political season, but when you listen to the concerns and you listen to the cries of the youth, you begin to understand that the youths want and need an avenue to address their concerns, to voice their opinions, so as to affect policies, so as to affect the direction that our decision makers are taking in leading our nation. And so what we have been able to do is we have been able to target the influencers in various spheres. So we've been able to target the youth influencers in politics. We've been able to target the youth influencers in sustainable development. We've been able to target the youth influencers in art and in sports, and we've been able to bring them to the table and have balanced, fair conversations. Man, this is one of the things I enjoy so much about these shows. One of the things I enjoy so much about these discussions, it's the balance. Because for example, just a quick example, yesterday, maybe it was yesterday, last week, we had the discussion on sports and art. So that was yesterday. We had the discussion on sport and art. And we had a sports teacher, a lecturer in sports, a youth in PE who does a lot of sport lecturing. Is involved in sport development in the country. And he made an observation in saying that he is a part of a group, a part of a committee that assesses these infrastructure, these sports facilities that the government has invested in. And while he acknowledges their investment, he made a comment saying that the facilities are not up to standard. And he was blunt, he was very straightforward in saying when it comes to international standards, that is not up to standards. Well, on the other hand, we had O.J. Elrington, who is a UDP standard bearer, a UDP candidate, and also very much involved in sports. And O.J. Elrington, being on the panel, he was able to also chime in and, of course, give his perspectives, considering that he is also a part of the government, give his perspective in terms of saying, you know what, well, I do understand your concerns, I accept it, and here is why I think you may be wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example of the balanced type of conversation.
And you don't always get that, especially on the bigger issues. But I want to come back for a second, because we had a conversation earlier talking about trends for elections, and I know this is always. And yesterday we had a phenomenal conversation with a group of first-time voters, really bringing to the table the level of disconnection that they feel from what is the political campaign period, and even what they are seeing and what they would like to see in an election season. And Paul, I'm told you are a first-time voter yourself. So
wow.
it's always different when you are going to be heading to the polls, how you pay attention to what's happening. What do you feel that the campaigns as they are run, and knowingly they're very different from any other campaign period, but do you feel that they are in any way connecting with you as a voter?
Thanks for asking that question. I think that's an important question. I am indeed a first-time voter, and so you do have your information right. I was not in the country for most of my voting age years, and so I was not able to participate, but I always saw voting, I always saw elections as a cool thing in terms of being able to put that blue ink on your finger and take a picture and say, hey, I participated in voting. But for me, that was as far as I understood the process. I went to register to vote about 3 months ago, after I was convinced by one of the candidates in my constituency, which is the Mopan. I was convinced by the candidate to go and register to vote, because as far as I was concerned, I did not understand the importance of participating in this activity. And as a result, I really had no interest in participating in this year's election, but I decided to do it just to say, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I remember the day I registered to vote, I took to social media and I made a comment saying, yes, I registered to vote, but I'm not sure how significant or what much of a difference my one vote will make, because for me, it's all right. It's just one vote. It's just one person. And I really began to look at the campaigns, I really began to search out, to seek out information as to why my vote is important. To say that the campaigns played a huge part in influencing me to understand the importance of my vote would be a lie.
Yeah.
I don't see where these campaigns, I don't see where these political parties are focused on listening to the youths, are focused on putting out promises or manifestos, or speaking to issues that affect youths. I don't see it. So I've had to do my own reading. I've had to do my own research. And of course, I came across the Youth Voice Matters campaign. And this is really where I have been learning a lot about issues affecting youth. This is where I've been learning from youths. I have been learning the importance of several issues that will be on the ballot for me, of course, from youth. And so I do think there's a lack where campaigns are concerned in speaking to youths and issues affecting youth.
Now, Tarun, you've been working with young people for such a long time, and both you and Paul are young, intelligent, well-spoken youths. And in fact, I think the people we've seen who represent Youth Vote Matter are all the similar traits. Now, how do you extend beyond those of you who have been conscious of what's going on and have been having this conversation? There are young people who may have registered or may not, but who have just simply become disillusioned and don't want to be involved in this process. And they're the ones that really need the motivation to get involved. How do you build that connection?
Well, definitely, Marlene, one of the most important things is that I believe we kind of need to shift our view that youth are no longer interested. Our young people, we are not where we used to be. Now, you are right in saying that there is a disconnect, or our young people are discouraged. They're tired of seeing the same things over and over. Like you rightfully mentioned, this election will see a lot of new young voters that when the opposition was last in power, they were babies, really, and they have no recollection of what that time was like, which I believe provides a new challenge for both political parties to go out and to be able to meet these young people. For us at Youth Voice Matters, what's really important is to be able to show that young people are interested, and to be able to bridge that gap between the political world and between young people, to have the tough conversations, to go out and find young people and to speak to them, to include them in the conversation. We have an ongoing Google Form and Google Drive program where we are trying to collect young people to be able to include them in this conversation. You know, long gone is a time where we can say that youth are unpolished, as one of our members said, because we're not there anymore. And it is our responsibility. You called us the more well-spoken youth. I believe we all have a voice that we know how to use, not just us who are members of Youth Voice Matter, but young people across the country have a voice that they are ready to use. They just need the platform to be able to use that voice. And with Youth Voice Matters, we are giving them that opportunity in a nonpartisan way. We are here to ask the tough questions to the people who need to be asked. We're here to challenge them, and we're not here anymore just to take what is said at hand, but to look deeper, to question. As Paul rightfully mentioned, that conversation yesterday, some were like, oh, it was getting steamy. It was, and it was good. It was what we needed to hear. We can no longer, sit on the back burners and just be careful. No, this isn't the time to be careful anymore. There's too much on the line. It's not even our future's on the line. It's the future of this country as we enter into our 40th year. Like, what will happen? What will we do? And I must commend you, Paul. I'm glad you went out and got registered to vote. And I implore all Belizeans, like all young Belizeans, once you were registered to vote, to go out there and exercise that right to vote. Not voting is not, no, that is not a stance to take. Not at this time. There's too many important things that need to get done. So what you got to do is look at who in your constituency best fits for you, best fits your morals, best fits what you want to see progress in the country. That's what you have to do. Not for just me and not just for yourself, but for our communities, for our country.
You noted something, and I think that we don't talk about it enough. You said this decision is not just looking at potential impacts in the future, but the decisions that are being made right now in this pandemic have major implications for young people and what future they're going to have. And I don't mean that as a far-fetched thing. I mean very simply, how much debt are you going to owe as residents of this country in the next 10 years? What will that mean for opportunities that exist and taxes you pay? And the list can go on and on and on. Now, the question I have, though, yesterday, it was interesting when I found out that the National University doesn't have a group or even a student affairs department that is advocating for or tertiary level students to go out and vote. And I find that concerning, because if you know any of the college campus, they always have these types of activities. You're studying right now, Tarun. If there's an election, the students, and especially the university students, they're involved. Have you reached out to these groups? Because if they don't have the information at hand, they may not participate. And I'm so happy to see that you guys have come together to tackle youth issues from a youth perspective. But are you reaching out to universities locally as well and seeing how you can maybe fill that gap?
Well, I don't know that we are reaching out to the universities executives specifically. I do know that we're making efforts and strides to reaching out to students that have been studying in various fields at these universities to participate in the discussions. And you're right in saying that youth participation, there's been so little focus on youth participation across the country. And now what I'm seeing these political parties vying for office. I'm seeing them now becoming more interested in wanting youth participation, in having youth participation in their campaigns. For example, I know the party leader for the United Democratic Party commended this campaign. I know that the People's United Party, during their virtual campaign, during their virtual manifestos, Plan Belize launches, they have youths in their forums, they have youth in their settings, and I like it. But I can't help but be a bit skeptical, just in thinking that perhaps they understand the importance of the youth vote in this election to the extent that they, and I don't want to use the word exploit, because that's not what I want to say.
Tokenism.
But just to say that I hope that these political parties, these campaigns, take the youth voice more seriously, moving into November 12th and after, when they become elected.
Marlene, to hone in a little more on your question itself, the Youth Voice Matter Project has definitely done its work in reaching out to various young people, young groups, university students, out of school, young people as well. So it's a very interesting era that we are conducting this Youth Voice Matter campaign. Everything is via Zoom, via WhatsApp messages. It's a lot about networking and doing everything in the cloud, really, because there is no face-to-face. It's not like we can go into the university and sit down with an affairs and start a campaign there. But the Youth Voice Matter campaign itself is one that seeks to pull and attract all young people across the board, encouraging them to get out and vote, encouraging them to use that right to speak up and speak out and be participate in this process, in the political process. So I do believe that our reach is a far reach, and we've done a good job, I believe, in pulling together young people from across the board. We have a very diverse group, a very gender balanced group, something I really appreciate, especially, seeing not just young people, but young women really just taking that charge and moving through as well. So definitely, I believe that yes, we have.
Yeah. And what about, sometimes it's even just the fundamentals. People who've never voted before may not even know, young people who've never voted before may not even know the process. They may not even know how to manipulate or what to look for, where to find, what type of information is accessible. What are your thoughts on where we are in terms of access to this type of information, especially in youth spaces?
Okay, definitely, Marlene. I must say that it's been very interesting to see the way that both political parties have become very innovative in taking what would have been once hard copies and putting them online, making them accessible, really utilizing various social media platforms, utilizing Facebook and Instagram even. I've seen these things posted. Yeah. So I believe that these political parties are trying to reach the young people where they are in very unconventional ways. And I mean, this is the 21st century, and for us young people, everything's at our fingertips. And they're really doing an exceptional job, I must say. They could do better, but they're doing a very good job at trying to meet the youth voter where they are. And I believe, I've seen apps produced that I thought were rather innovative. And I think now what the challenge is in these next couple of weeks is to let young people and to show young people how to get there and where to find these things. So that way they can make an informed decision when they turn up to the polls on, November 11th. And that's really important because we're asking you guys to turn up to the polls, to show up, to show out, but to do so consciously and to know what you're voting for.
So I think one of the misconceptions that people have about, and this is just from conversations I've had with a few young voters, we assume that they don't want to vote or they're not interested. But in fact, they are paying attention. They just don't like their choices. And they don't particularly like getting involved in what is a very deep partisan divide in this country. What do you say to those young people who feel that exactly what you said in the beginning, Paul? They feel that their one vote won't matter. They feel that, you've heard more and more about the PUDP, where people just kind of lump politicians all into one group. How do you touch these voters? Because they understand what's happening. They just don't see the power they have in the situation.
Well, I'm glad for that question, and thank you for asking. I think it's an important question. The good thing about the times we're living in, and Tarun rightfully mentioned it, is we live in this social media era. We live in this era where everyone is on social media in terms of youth, and everything is on social media. So as soon as a hot political button, as soon as a hot political topic pops up, our youths are engaged. Our youths are engaged in the comment sections. Our youths are engaged in sharing these issues. Our youths are engaged in creating memes. And these memes go viral. We laugh at these memes. We enjoy them. So it's about taking that same social media passion. It's about taking that same engagement and understanding that you need that same energy, and you want to go to the polls with that same energy, so that, as Tarun rightfully said, you make an informed decision. It's about understanding that the decisions that our leaders are making affects our daily lives, affects the opportunities you have in terms of the types of employment you're able to receive in your country. It's about understanding whether you will ride through a mud puddle in front of your yard, whether you have to walk through a mud puddle in front of on the street in front of your yard, or whether you'll be able to ride on or drive on paved streets. It's about understanding, for example, in Belmopan, a number of youths were arrested over the weekend for playing basketball. It's about understanding why these decisions are made and how these decisions affect you, and how you are able to influence these decisions, and the fact that your vote has the power to put the people in power that you believe in, the people that you believe will make decisions that will impact your future for the good, that will impact the future and the lives of your friends, that will impact the future and the lives of your family, that will impact the future of your education, crime in your community, etc. So for those youths, I say, take a look at what's happening around you, take a look at everything that's going on, and understand that politics, politicians, policies play a role in these decisions, and that your vote play a role in who we as a nation put to lead and make these decisions.
Strong party politics. I'm sorry, Marlene.
Go ahead.
But yes, strong party politics is something that we see across the region. Partisan politics is as well. And as this new generation of voters comes in, there is definitely a sense of discouragement, because we're tired of seeing the colors being played, and it's no longer about just colors. It's about what they can offer for the country and for the development of the country. So while yes, I agree that it is discouraging, and I have had young people speak to me, and I've had conversations with young people where they do say they'd rather just not vote for red nor blue, right? Because then I vote the same thing. Well, at the end of the day, one of them will come into power, and you have that right, and you have the power to go ahead and to choose or to impact the choice of who is going to take up that helm. And eventually we can change the style of politics. It might not be in this, and that might be this time around, maybe not even the next election, but slowly we can start to see the integration of more viable young people into the political system. We can start to change the political system, but before we get there, we have to start exercising that right to vote.
That's right. I have this tweet that I found that I've been sharing with people all the time. It's voting. It says voting isn't marriage. It's public transportation. You're not waiting for the one. You're getting on the bus. And if there isn't one going exactly to your destination, you don't stay home and sulk. You take the one that's going closest to where you want to be.
Perfect.
So that is so important.
So, but I got it. We're running out of time. I love what you're doing. We really hope that we can get more young people to get involved and join this group. Tell us, how do people get in touch? How do they stay on top of what you're producing and what you're talking about?
Well, first of all, before we go, I want everyone to know that tune in tomorrow morning. We're going to be talking about political reform with both experts and some folks from in the political sphere. For those who want to get involved, check out the Youth Voice Matters Facebook page. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram. Find myself, find Paul on Facebook. Hit us up, Dominique Norales, Beresford Cod. Any of us, we can help direct you to exactly where you can go to get more involved. But definitely that is one. And tune in. We're on Tuesdays. We're on Thursdays. Leading up to Election Day, and we're going to be talking about the serious things.
All right. Well, thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Marlene, let me just thank you. Let me just close off by saying, first of all, there have been questions in terms of where the movement will go after the election period is over, and I'm here to deliver breaking news, which is that the campaign will be registered as an official campaign, as an official organization, so that these engagements can continue after the election period is over. And I also want to say that there have also been concerns in terms of having at-risk youths, or what some would refer to as ghetto youths, more involved in the conversation. And I want to say that we are actively seeking out those perspectives, and we will begin to have more of those perspectives on our shows. So we have been listening, and we want the maximum youth participation as possible. And if there's one thing that youths can do to participate in this season, is to go out and vote. Go out and vote, youths.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us, and best of luck. And we hope that people find you, follow you, and join in the conversation.
Thank you for having us, Marlene.
All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a final break. And when I come back, we'll wrap things up for today.